All right. So it helps if you turn your microphone on before you start talking. That's your pro tip for you right there. Welcome to the Game AI Show. It is Sunday morning. I'm Luke Dickon. I am going to be talking to you today about Game AI, and we'll be playing a game called Tyranny this morning. So Tyranny is a story-driven RPG where your choices mean all the difference in the world. So Tyranny's been on my radar for a little while as something that might be interesting for us to take a look at together. I don't know a whole lot about it. I know it's been fairly well rated, and I know that there's a whole kind of system of morality and a lot of opportunity to impact the way that the world unfolds as part of kind of the narrative and kind of systems of the world. So one of the things that I thought would be interesting is we haven't really looked at, over the time that we've kind of been doing this, we've been looking at some very systems-oriented kind of games like Oxygen Not Included. We've played, we've played a bunch of stuff. We played RimWorld, Epic Tavern. These are games where you've got a very kind of an open world to an extent, and you're able to kind of grok what's going on by the readability of the system, and then influence that simulation of the world to get to the output that you want. That's cool. That's definitely one way of looking at things. But what if the world wasn't explicitly a framework? And I think that's something that we're going to get to explore here in Tyranny. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. I'm afraid that today, I got back from Toronto pretty late last night, and as a result, I am a little bit on the back foot here. So let me just fiddle with some settings. There's also going to be some problems probably with the audio levels, and I don't know what's going on with my camera today. That's not going to work at all. So for some reason, I'm getting this real heavy glare off the green of the green screen. And I don't know if it's just because it's a very overcast day. So there's a very kind of very bright light coming without an actual centralized source. And if I remembered an old class that I took around what that meant, I would remember what the fancy word for that kind of lighting is. Diffuse lighting, maybe? So let's crank this number up and see if that helps. A bit, but it's still got a horrible flickery grey over a chunk of the thing. That's no good. Alright, let's crank it up even further, because that did seem to be the right number to be changing. How does that look? Well, still not far enough. The riveting life of streaming. I think I might have to get blackout curtains for this room, because without being able to control the light source particularly well, because you're just out to... there's a window over here that is letting in a lot of light, and I'm noticing just how much of a difference it makes. Man, that is still not making enough of a difference. I wonder what else we can do here. Let's crank this number up. Obviously that was the wrong direction. Now it's taking out a chunk of my face, so that's no good. I still check. What the fuck, man? I have no idea what's going on with this. That's made things worse. That's taken out a chunk of my face. Wow, this is some riveting entertainment for you right here. What happens if I turn that down? That's not made much of a difference. think it's just that the white balance on the green screen is like not there's not like an even shade to the screen as a result of all this light in the room. Let me see what happens if I turn this guy off. Well, that got worse, and also the focus has gone to shit. What happens if I bring this light to here? Does that make things... That looks like it's made things better-ish. Alright, let's try. The light being here. And now fiddle with the settings again. I don't fucking know. Man, this is so... Alright, that's not looking terrible. We'll just go with that. Okay, so, Tyranny. This is why I was a little bit late starting up the stream this morning, because I was trying to figure that out, and there's just been a few things that have been a pain in the ass. So one thing that I would like to call out as I'm starting this up is that I made affiliate in the last stream. So thank you very much to everybody who came out. I really appreciate all the support in making that happen. I'd actually set a goal for myself of getting there by the end of March. So getting there before the end of February was really huge, and I really do appreciate everybody who's supporting the stream. The theme song that you heard at the beginning was by Deathbow. That's Heidi McDonald. Heidi's a writer for the games industry, and she's done a whole bunch of community organization type stuff. So check out Heidi. She's doing really great stuff. And the logo, which let me just pop my overlay on. If I pop the overlay on, you can see the logo for the Game AI show there. That's being put together by Pragmacat. Kat's doing some really great work, and I really appreciate all that she's doing there. But it's not really this overlay. I really like it, but it really fucks up the game. So I'm just going to turn it off. So, like I say, this is Tyranny. I have not played any of this game, so I have no idea what to expect. I suspect that we'll be playing it a lot over the next coming weeks. This is probably going to be our Sunday game for like a month, maybe. What we got? We can do story mode difficulty. We can do normal, hard, Path of the Damned. And we've got an expert mode, a Trial of Iron, and New Game Plus for later. Normal difficulty requires strategy and efficiency, but forgives a few mistakes in combat. Companion combat AI is enabled by default. I'd quite like to look at what the companion combat AI does, so let's do that one. So let's hit accept. Alright. Does look like jiggling around with those settings has actually made the video better. I've got to work out what's going on with this inability to get like an even colour across the green screen there. In fact, I'm just going to think...
For over 400 years, the armies of Kairos the Overlord have swept across the known world. All who stood against them fell before their might. Even the Archons, women and men of immense power, were forced to kneel, chained to the Overlord's will. Now Kairos' final conquest has come to our corner of the world, and two of the Overlord's armies compete for the honor of taking our lands.
That seems inefficient.
The elite disfavored, and the teeming horde of the Scarlet Chorus. The voices of Nerat, spymaster and archon of secrets, guides the fierce and undisciplined masses of the Scarlet Chorus. With each battle, the Scarlet Chorus grows stronger, as the defeated are given a simple choice: serve or die. Graven Ash, Archon of War and the Overlord's most loyal general, leads the disfavored. Though small in number, Kairos' ironclad legion has never met true defeat in open battle. Watching over the two generals is Tunon, the Adjudicator, Archon of Justice, eldest of Kairos' minions. Tunon brings Kairos' laws to newly conquered lands, aided by the Fatebinders, judges and executioners of the Overlord's laws. You were among the youngest of the court of Fatebinders when Kairos' armies came to our lands. How could we have known that the fate of thousands would rest in your hands?
Cool. Alright, character creation time. So one thing that's worth shouting out is, we've spent a lot of time fiddling about with the green screen. Yes, I'm still talking about the green screen. I'm also holding a green soda can. This is some LaCroix lime. But you wouldn't know it because it's fucking invisible on the green screen. So if you see me holding an invisible kind of ghostly can, that's what's going on there. Okay. So in the Northern Empire, where you were born, men enjoy equal protections under the laws of the Overlord Kairos. In the southern lands of the Tiers, only men may own or captain ships, but real estate is restricted to women. Men may lease, but durable ownership of land in the Tiers always passes to the eldest daughters or sister. Most sons enter their father's profession by their mid-teens. Those without a profession or family lands to work can find purpose by pledging service to one of the Overlord's mighty Archons. Criminals, derelicts, and others are often conscripted into the armies of the Archons. If a child cannot forge his own scheme, he will certainly find one in battle. So, alright. So the text changes. In the Northern Empire where you were born... I don't think the text... Oh, interesting. The text content doesn't really change for that first paragraph. The text does. So for women, whilst following a parent's profession is standard, many women choose to pledge service to one of the Overlord's powerful Archons. Those without a viable trade or lands to call their own are often drafted into the armies of the Archon, where it is assumed that they will rise to glory or vanish in obscurity in accordance to their worth. So that's interesting, because that's it's different text, but the same core concepts. And body type doesn't seem to be driving any changes to that.
Got it.
Oh, this is kind of cool. There's an awful lot of options here. Maybe we don't need to explore all of them.
Moving cautiously.
Alright, but portrait probably is going to matter because I guess I'm going to be staring at that for a while. I don't know. That one. Yeah, probably that one. In fact, that actually does look like that dude. Ish, kind of. Done. How did you join Kairos' army? Pit fighter, hunter, guild apprentice, noble son, diplomat, war mage, lawbreaker, soldier. I have no idea. There's a lot of text here, and it's not actually. So we talked about readability of simulations. Like, it's not actually like telling me a whole lot about what the impact of my decisions are going to be here. So I'm probably going to want to play some sort of range type class. That's what I tend to favor. So this is. Yeah, let's be a guild apprentice. So the guild apprentice, deeply proud of your intelligence. Your parents always knew you were too smart for a life spent with your hands in the soil. Looking to secure a better future, your parents struck a bargain with a 7-tree guild, a small magical order willing to teach you letters, numbers, and magic if you proved capable. For several years, you learned much from the mages, mastering reading and writing faster than the rest. Eventually, learned the basics of mystic theory and spellcraft. Your magical studies came to an abrupt halt when the voices of Narat, Archon of Secrets, deemed the guild a peacetime distraction that must be disbanded for the upcoming war, its mages assigned to proper armies. While your peers went on to other guilds, your mind was seen as too valuable to be wasted on the armies. Instead, your life was claimed by Tunon, Archon of Justice. Sure, let's go with that. This is another history choice. You were trained in the following combat style. Okay, so now we're starting to get more info on like the mechanical impact of what's happening here. So I'm going to take. So if I'm taking spellcasting, maybe I take shock spells as a primary. So I get a charged fist ability. Well, do I want that as primary? Yeah. Okay, let's do it. And then on the secondary. So on the secondary, if I've got my shock spells already, can I take that? Oh, I get a secondary ability in that same style, but let's take. Let's maybe take something a little bit more close in. So we've got ranged primary. Melee secondary. I think maybe spear and shield. Maybe not. Let's go sword and shield primary. Let's choose shield slam or sunder. Nah. Let's just go maged. I hate this character creation kind of thing, like the fact that you actually need to lock stuff in from day one seems very I got some really good advice a few years ago from a guy, Mark Skaggs. He was SVP of games at Zynga, but prior to that he kind of put together, he was one of the folks on the Command and Conquer team back at EA. One of the things that he really... So we were talking about a bunch of stuff around guild recommendation, and he said, forcing people to make a choice up front in the game is often really hard, because like you don't know enough about what the game is and what you want to achieve out of it. So the fact that like I'm having to lock all of this in right now feels very... it's pushing me to kind of... to make choices that I don't understand the impact of. And this is where I like kind of the Elder Scrolls model, where like the more you use things, the more you level them up. Well, that's cool, because at the end of the day, that puts you in a world where you're more able to kind of organically learn what's going on and what you want to do and how you want things to work. I don't know. Let's go. We got shock for our primary. Let's go for frost for our secondary, and move on. Otherwise, we're going to be here all fucking day. So something a bit mystical because we're going full magic user. Apparently, wasn't expecting that, but here we go. And my character colors: light grey. That's not good. Oh, the red edging is nice. Let's do red edging. Yeah. Red edging on black. There we go. Done. Oh fuck. Well, I'm gonna be super original here. Now I've got attribute scores. Cool. Alright, so it's at least guiding me to where to put my points. So it's saying that Wits is good for shock spells and frost, Resolve is good for frost, Quickness is good for shock. So 4 into Wits, 2 into Quickness and Resolve. And let's move on, because honestly, Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know. Let's pour a whole bunch of points into the magic staff. That feels like it'll be useful later. A whole bunch of points into control frost. Some points into dodge, I guess. A couple of points into subterfuge, maybe I want to evade stuff. Alright, that looks broadly good. I've no idea. You know, this is an overwhelming amount of choice and kind of like, you know, it's giving me math over here without really explaining any of it. Like, cool, base value is 18, 12 quickness times 1.5. Why is it times 1.5? No fucking idea. Plus 7, which is 14 wins times 0.5. Like, this is not a good... How do you want to continue? Alright, well, so now it's going to give me the option. Selecting the Conquest option will allow you to play through Kairos' Conquest of the Tiers, choosing how your character was involved in the invasion. This gives you the most control over the starting state of the game and how other factions will react to your character. Quick Start. Selecting this option will bypass the Conquest phase of the character creation. You will select from a list of available templates for how your character was involved in Kairos' Conquest of the Tiers. This will affect the starting state of the game. I'm just going to Alt-Tab out because I have a suspicion that I need to drop a little bit the audio from... I think the audio mix is probably a little bit off, but I've not seen anybody complaining about it in chat, but it's just a gut feeling. Let me bring this tab back up. Let's do the Conquest, I guess. You know, like I say, like, it just feels like there is so much friction to actually getting to play a fucking game here.
All the world has fallen to Kairos. And now the Overlord's eye is on the Tiers, our home. The last corner of the world free of Kairos' reign. 2 armies, the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus, march south from the Northern Empire, the last realm to fall to Kairos a century prior.
So here's a question. You know, if this dude has been conquering the world, like, why did he take over this Northern Empire a century ago and then just, like, hang out? That doesn't seem to track.
In the early days of 428, Kairos' armies arrive at the Gates of Judgment, the mountainous border that we Tiersmen so long believed unassailable. Unable to agree on a unified plan of defense, the various leaders of the tiers sit and wait for each other to deal with the conquerors. Until it's too late.
Okay, well, I mean, that addresses my question, I suppose. They have this mountainous border that nobody could get over until they just walked over it. During the conquest, you will decide your character's actions during Kairos' invasion of the tiers, shaping the world through which you will adventure over the course of the game. Each choice you make affects your character and how major factions of the tiers respond to you. Your decisions matter, choose wisely. Okay, dude, just calm down with all the fucking decisions. Year 1 of Kairos' conquest. This is actually, like, stylistically, this is neat. The bastard city stood on the northern border between Kairos' empire and the tiers. Built upon a natural harbour at the crossroads between realms, the city was a nexus of commerce. To the tiers, it was the centre of all wealth. To a northerner, it was little more than a backwater trading post. Its symbolic status as a gateway to the continent made it a natural first target in Kairos' military conquest. Circumstances were ideal for you to prove your worth as a soldier in Kairos' army. Taking this city would send a message to the rest of the tiers. Kairos' will is insurmountable. Select a token on them. What the fuck are we doing? The armies of Kairos took the battle to the gates of judgment, trumpeting the opening call of the conquest of the tiers. The two armies, the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chaos, brought their distinctive sense of order and chaos to the assault. You went to battle alongside the army whose approach best suited your strengths. Infiltrate the tiers. History. Oh, okay. So this is a different way. History would remember the gates of judgment as the first battle of the conquest, but the real combat unfolded with advanced units of both armies preparing for the coming war. The Disfavored and Scarlet Chaos each had a plan to infiltrate the capital city. Which army did you join? I'm probably more leaning towards Order than Chaos. You lent your skills to the elite Disfavored scouts to capture a border garrison. Graven Ash insisted that an early victory in the offensive would boost the morale of his troops and diminish the haughty overconfidence of the Southerners. Alright. I can go with some infiltration. The Oathbound scouts identified a modest border defense and collaborated on an organized attack that would leave the enemy uncoordinated and cut off from aid. You oversaw the preparations and offered your opinions on the strategy. When the clashing of swords and spears fell to silence, followed by the cheering of the Disfavored scouts, you were the least surprised. Cool. Alright. So this is effectively a branching narrative system. The way it's presented is actually really interesting, right? Because, like, by presenting it as, you know, it's very stylistically a battle map in a command center, and you're presenting like two overall strategies and then choices within those strategies. So you're effectively getting 4 choice points, and I bet this one's similar. Your fiercest opponents in the Bastard City were the mages of the School of Wild Wrath. Too barbaric to use their powers responsibly, the unbridled practitioners needed to be stopped. How did you trick the hot-tempered mages into their own undoing? So you've again got the same choice between the Disfavored, well, or the Scarlet Chaos. So you tricked the guild elders into meeting the voices of Nerat, who apparently is a dude, despite being multiple voices. Archon of Secrets. The Archon was notorious for his cruel and mysterious interrogation techniques. The mages were never seen again. Alternatively, you can lure the hot-headed mages to an ambush where a legion of Disfavored waited to spring the trap. There's more subtlety and nuance to this one, so I'm going to take that. And I think that's what the choice... Well, let's look at the other choice. With the border garrison captured by your disfavored allies, you travel ahead of Kairos' army and lurked in the shadows of the bastard city. You decided that converting one of the locals to Kairos' side would help bring the city to its knees. So you can convert a captain of the guard or a smuggler. I'm actually going to do the more subtle mages disappear one. There were few who could describe what horrors the Archon of Secrets visited upon his enemies during the conquest. Whether the Elder Mages knew little of the Archon's reputation or met with him out of curiosity didn't matter. Once the flap of the Archon's tent closed, none of them were heard from again, save for a strangled cry of alarm that ended just as swiftly. Leaderless, the School of Wild Wrath fell into disorder, and their remaining members were slain by the disfavored or conscripted into the Scarlet Chaos. Your tactics of infiltration placed you in the Bastard City ahead of the main armies. Your work softened the city's defences for the arrival of Kairos' forces, but you wanted a decisive gesture that would give your allies a meaningful advantage. How did you assist in the fall of the Bastard City? So, you challenged the commander of the Bastard City's defences to an honourable fight to the death. The disfavored wished to spare soldier lives for the battles ahead and civilian lives for the occupation. Or, spreading the word of Kairos, you converted the poor and disaffected into a hidden army of the Scarlet Chaos. Once the dust settled, the army wished to bolster their troops with these sleeper cells. And that's going to give me a new ability, which is the Searing Palm. I get a new ability from Dueling the Marshal, which is Warrior's Respite. Stand your ground in the face of defeat. During this time you will generate health rapidly, but your damage is significantly reduced. And then the third choice here is Spread Fear through Assassination. Keeping to the shadows, you eliminated the leaders of the Bastard City one by one. And here you get what looks like a stealth ability out of that one. Yeah, that could be cool. Like, I guess you've got an honourable, a chaotic, and then like now there's this third one. That emblem is Kairos' emblem, I think. So you can choose between the two factions that have kind of been introduced, or there's this third kind of meta faction. Some deaths were quiet and unnoticed, while others were gruesome beyond words. As a wave of murder overtook the city's elite, your deeds swelled in infamy. Well before the armies arrived, no one in the Bastard City felt safe in their homes, much less behind their walls. By the time Kairos' forces crested the horizon, the city was fearful enough to throw open the gates and welcome their new protectors. Okay. Alright, and with that, the Bastard City has fallen. The Bastard City settled into a new state of normalcy, with every tower displaying Kairos' banner. Your name was whispered alongside rumours of a decorated career to come. The armies divided into two fronts and migrated south. Tunon sent word that you were either to join the next frontier of Kairos' conquest. That you were to join the next frontier of Kairos' conquest, either as judge and overseer of the settlement of Lethian's Crossing, or as a war advisor with the armies advancing into the realm of Apex. Let's go the more... Let's go with this guy. Let's go to Lethian's Crossing. So that's chosen our starting location, but it still seems to be... Okay, this is the next year. Years ago, Lethian the Bold founded a small merchant town at the intersection of ancient Old Walls. Old Walls there is a capitalized, which means it's going to be a concept, I guess. A pact between the settlers and a mercenary company meant that caravans were able to travel without fear of bandits or Bane. Cool, I don't know what Bane is, but again, capital letter might be an important concept, although it's not got a hyperlink, so who knows. And the town thrived in modest insignificance. Thriving in modest insignificance, that's... Something to strive for, I guess. Lethian's crossing drew Kairos' attention for the iron deposits in the surrounding hills. With the region under Kairos' control, the northern smith mages could set up workshops to refine ore and arm the disfavored with the finest weapons in the known world. The Archon of Secrets dismantled the mercenary support with a generous bribe, taking the crossing in a bloodless victory. Tunon dispatched you to travel alongside Kairos' forces and bring order to the region. Okay, so I've seen this before. The iron must flow. Kairos' smith mages worked day and night to create weapons. No one faulted their dedication, yet production was low. The plans that came to light provided divisive to the disfavored and Scarlet Chaos. On one hand, any additional manpower was needed for fighters, not forgers. On the other hand, the celebrated weaponry of Kairos' armies needed to be fiercely guarded. So you can take refugees and force them to serve in the military, so they have to refugees and force them to serve in the military. You repurpose these individuals to haul wagons of iron for the smith mages. This proved an inconvenience to the Scarlet Chaos. Do I keep calling it the Scarlet Chaos? It's the Scarlet Chorus. Who relied on their force of numbers to be effective in the field. That's a dumb plan anyway. You conscripted help from a local tribe of beastmen. Their strength would more than offset their disobedience. The disfavored protested that savages have access to the secrets of iron, but their voices were few compared to the support of the Scarlet Chaos. And what's the other encounter we can do? The Cult of Sirin. Sirin, Archon of Song, used her arcane charm to lure locals into joining Kairos' army. As a patroness of the Scarlet Chorus, Jesus Christ, her efforts were critical to the conscription of new recruits. When an enthralled, disfavored soldier joined her cult, his company feared that the Archon was growing out of control and needed to be stopped. The disfavored demanded that the Archon of Song cease her recruitment practices and that they be allowed to violently subdue her cult of followers. The loss of soldiers was a significant setback to the Scarlet Chorus's conscription effort. Why does every one of these feel like a fucking tongue twister? In Scarlet Chorus tradition, you sent the latest batch of cultists to the front lines of the Apex campaign. Those who survived were welcome to remain in Kairos' military, and their performance would stand as testimony to Sirin's effectiveness. Out of all of these, like, the one that I think I'm leaning towards is, like, refugees who are serving in the military, let's turn them into people dragging wagons around, and the Scarlet Chorus can fuck off. The population of Lethian's Crossing had swelled from the emptying of lands destroyed by Kairos' armies. Although the Scarlet Chorus fought to keep the refugees under their control, the need for production could not wait. The new recruits were reassigned to haul iron ore from treacherous mine shafts, labour more befitting slave than Kairos' artisans. Well, that's a bit rough. Though the disfavored grew stronger with the advantage of more weapons, the Scarlet Chorus diminished as their ranks found themselves with one less opportunity for growth. I mean, how effective are slave armies anyway? Like, that doesn't seem like a thing. Since you aided the production of weapons, commanders of both armies lobbied for additional arms. They offered all manner of bribes to be next in line for a fitting session with the Masters of the Forge. How did you sate the lust for iron? So you can give up... I guess you can pick the disfavored. You can pick the Scarlet Chorus. Okay, cool. So this is starting to make sense as to what this third option is. It's kind of a neutrality kind of option. So when you don't pick one of the faction sides, you're choosing kind of the greater good of the evil army, I guess. So that's this guy. What's this one? Kairos' armies used Lethian's Crossing as a reprieve from the war. The city grew more crowded as a mercenary army hired by the Archon of Secrets occupied the barracks, where they drained resources and escalated tensions. The disfavored wanted nothing to do with the sellswords, but the Scarlet Chorus sought to invite them into the fold. Let's take that neutral option. That seems like a good one, because I still don't really know where all this is going. Using language that left nothing open to interpretation, you let both of the commanders know that bribery would not be tolerated in Kairos' military. That didn't stop either of them from seeking you out again, making promises of wealth and advancement if you showed special favor. Deciding that enough was enough, you ordered both of the commanders flogged in view of their armies, letting pain and humiliation teach them where reason had failed. Tragedy struck when a mercenary hired by the Voices of Nerat injured a forge-bound artisan, leaving him unable to practice his craft. Tunon ordered the mercenaries to leave the city in the hands of Kairos' more responsible servants. Only a token garrison could be left behind while the armies returned to the front. As the Disfavored and Scarlet Chorus showed increasing tension and hostility toward each other, Tunon decreed it was best that only one force control the crossing. So now I'm actually being forced to pick a faction here, I guess. I'm leaning more towards the Disfavored. They kind of seem like they're more kind of more structured. They're gonna, if you take the view that like we've taken this Lethian's Crossing thing to be the judge and overseer of this settlement, like I kind of don't want to have like chaotic psychos, which the Scarlet Chorus group seem to be, running around doing their thing, trying to build up their chaotic slave army. Let's actually just leave this to the professionals, and that feels like in this choice point it's going to be the Disfavored. I'm assuming, and then again, like there's just no readability to any of this. It's completely obfuscated. My guess is that there's some sort of like faction rep, effectively, that I'm influencing by my choices here. But I think generally taking a neutral to siding with order feels like the right move. So the Disfavored placed a modest garrison in the settlement of Lethian's Crossing. Though the force was larger than might be needed to police the small settlement, protecting the forge-bound ironsmiths became the true agenda of the defense force, as these magical craftsmen kept the Disfavored invasion force suited in iron. Relieved at the departure of the Scarlet Chorus, the citizens of Lethian's Crossing felt they got the least of two burdens. You received word from Graven Ash thanking you for your decision. The Forge-bound and their weaponry could not be entrusted to the Voices of Nerat. Graven Ash, the last of the great northern generals to stand against the Overlord in ages past, Archon Graven Ash now serves Kairos as Supreme Commander of the Disfavored Legion and is charged with conquering the Tiers. Graven Ash shares a powerful bond with the soldiers under his command and regards each of them as family. The death of a soldier at enemy hands represents a grievous loss to the old general, who bears the burden of his love with mournful stoicism. Who is this guy? Oh, the Voices of Nerat is the leader of the Scarlet Chorus. Okay, cool. Alright, so that's Lethian's Crossing resolved. With the mercenaries expelled and Lethian's Crossing under new leadership, Kairos' forces congratulated themselves on bringing order to the settlements and guaranteeing a productive flow of resources. Over the course of this diversion, the army front advanced further into the Tiers. Your skills were needed in the realm of Azure, Stalwart, or the Vellum Citadel. Vellum Citadel. Kairos' conquering gaze fell upon the Vellum Citadel. Its treasures, its knowledge, its secrets. With its easily defended position and rich military tradition, the realm of Stalwart was the most formidable realm in the Tiers. Or Azure. Kairos dispatched the Archon of Stone to subjugate the nation of Azure. I like knowledge and secrets and treasures. I think we're going there. So now this is year 3. So you're starting to get a sense of like, this is like effectively a branching narrative being played out in a very interesting way, and if it's actually going to impact the starting world and the kind of settings, then that's actually really interesting. Because I'm not making obvious choices here. I'm kind of being really presented with a lot of subtlety, and there's we'll see how much of this turns into callbacks later. The Vellum Citadel was an archive and library of massive scale. Its inhabitants were known as the School of Ink and Quill, a circle of mages that centuries ago carved out their own mountainous refuge on lands unsettled by the other major realms. Legends said that the Citadel housed a treasure trove of arcane knowledge. The Overlord's spies infiltrated the school and confirmed as much. The time was ripe to send a detachment to the Great Library Fortress and force the scholars to yield to Kairos. So, a detachment of Kairos' army marched on Vellum Citadel, expecting an orderly surrender. As they neared the main gates, a blast of arcane energy struck the commanders dead. Suddenly, the highest-ranking officer alive, Kairos' forces looked to you for the next steps. The call weighed on your mind as it had an immediate influence on soldier losses. Or, Song of Ensnarement. Sirin, Archon of Song, used her power to enthrall enemy mages who crept beyond the citadel walls. After Kairos' forces rounded up the arcane practitioners, the disfavored began executing the new captives before they can share dangerous knowledge. A crime under Kairos' law with the Scarlet Chorus. Interesting. Okay, so you can muzzle the mages so that they can't speak, or you can punish the disfavored for executing the mages. In the other one, where the commanders are dead, so you in either case, this is a fairly direct faction choice. This one is giving you basically a trade-off. You can order the Scarlet Chorus to attack and the disfavored withdraw. Or the disfavored attack and Scarlet Chorus withdraw. The trade-off here is that like the disfavored are the elites and the Scarlet Chorus are a disorderly mob. So you kind of use cannon fodder effectively to protect your elite soldiers, or you use a few of your elite soldiers to kind of disengage with your disorderly mob. In this one, you can... So you can execute... you can punish them for executing these mages and order that several disfavored soldiers be given to the Archon of Song as her personal bodyguard. Or you can go... this compromise route seems like the one to go for, I think. Okay. By taking a compromised position, it looks like we've actually... that didn't stop the whispering and rumours that the conquest was being mismanaged. Okay. Well, fuck you. Interesting that, like, some of these pieces actually resemble each other, and I don't know if... I don't know if there's, like, some theming around the pieces that I'm not getting yet. The Archon of Song incited Scarlet Chorus recruits to fight their leaders. Bosses were killed and supplanted left and right. The disfavored demanded an end to the practice for the good of the conquest. You agreed with the disfavored arguments. The right of command had its place, but not when Kairos' forces were outnumbered and reinforcements were weeks behind, if not longer. Or you can rule that the Archon has the right to govern their armies according to their nature. Over here we have Spymaster, the Spymaster's agents. A group of enemy mages surrendered to the disfavored, claiming to be spies loyal to the voices of Nerat. No one in the army could verify the claim. The disfavored ready to interrogate the mages, but the Scarlet Chorus protested, demanding that the prisoners be given to their custody. They couldn't risk the voices of Nurat's secrets falling into the wrong hands. So it's interesting. There's a little bit of nuance to this one, because the group of enemy mages surrendered to the disfavored, claiming to be spies loyal to the Voices of Nurat. The Voices of Nurat is the leader for the Scarlet Chorus. So they surrendered to the wrong team, and now they're trying to I think we do this one, because at the end of the day, like, you should figure out who you're surrendering to, really. And I like this one because it's kind of coming back to this more subterfuge kind of directed thinking. The other one, like, internal management of armies, feels meh. You took time poring over the mage's confiscated documents. Finding no blatant messages to the Voices of Nurat or anyone else, you resolved to question the mages yourself. When you reached their cells, you discovered the bodies, each of them slaughtered in a grisly display. Tense discussion and accusations followed, but with no evidence to suggest a responsible party, you were forced to let the matter drop. Interesting. I mean, that is a very kind of... Something happened in that choice point, and it's unclear what. Okay, we're on to the takeover for this one. Crestfallen by the preferential treatment you showed the disfavored, the Scarlet Chorus retreated deeper into the mountains, leaving your detachment with a skeleton crew. Tunon sent word that Kyros's patience had run thin. The Overlord would cast an edict of fire on the enemy. The parchment arrived in a slender case of engraved iron, written on it the words of a spell powerful enough to destroy the Vellum Citadel. You had the choice of when to read the edict. Reading it at sunrise would offer your enemies no warning of the devastation to come. You could also wait until sunset, giving them ample time to flee or make amends. So, the disfavored want you to give no quarter. First moment of dawn, granting the enemy no warning of the destruction to come. Though the Corans insisted your actions doomed their spies, the disfavored applauded your decision. Claiming they still had spies within the Citadel, the Scarlet Chorus urged you to warn the mages of the Overlord Edict. Granting their request, you met with the enemy under a blue flag of peace and warned them of the Duke, giving the Chorus spies and the enemy a chance to run. I'm inclined to do that, frankly. Like, this Overlord dude does not seem like the best. Like, you know, being a little bit benevolent is probably going to pay off later, because I think that eventually we're going to rise up against the Overlord is how this is going to go down. So you confronted the mages with a warning and hoped the message was received. The hour before sunset, numerous figures were spotted fleeing the Citadel. As the sun dipped under the horizon, you read the words of the edict. The earth shook, and red-orange light glowed in the foundation of the sprawling Citadel. Bubbling up from under the library, a torrent of lava heaved with explosive force, gushing from windows and between loose bricks, melting winding trenches in the surrounding land. Days later, the flames still raged on. The conflagration continually fed and renewed by the power of the edict. What is an edict? Let's right-click for more details. Kyros's most powerful magic is that of the edict, commandments cast upon whole regions that control and destroy man and nature alike. Once cast, an edict can rain fire, wither crops, demoralize cities, usher in endless night, or do whatever it is that Kyros envisioned. No known force, magical or mundane, can stop an edict, though each edict is often worded to include some condition or contingency that will see its end. Some edicts have been short-lived, delivering days of wanton catastrophe, just as many have lingered for centuries. That, like, then why the fuck are we doing any of this shit? Just fucking edict the fuck out of them and let's go home. Jesus. What's the problem here? Alright, well, that place is now trash. The armies of Kairos left the devastation of the Vellum Citadel in silence. From that day forward, the Tears came to know the once noble citadel as the Burning Library. This was an undisputed loss of resources, knowledge, culture, and life. But a message had been sent. The Overlord will not tolerate defiance. You didn't have long to rest before Tunon called you into service once more. You were one of the last to depart from the mountains. As you journeyed off, you spotted a few campfires in the mountains. They were mere specks dwarfed by the inferno, the last gasp of survivors, or perhaps looters from Kairos' armies, bored and daring enough to pick through the ashes. So I think we're going to get... Oh, no. You have reached the end of Kairos' conquest. Do you want to continue or erase your progress and start over? Jesus fuck, I do not want to start over. Thank you very much. So you get 3 chapters, effectively. And you get to kind of set some starting conditions. I bet there's a version of that doesn't destroy the Citadel there. Or maybe not. I don't know. I think maybe we might get a game now. Maybe.
The year is 431,
oh, no.
and Kairos' invasion has shattered all major opposition in the tiers. The Younger Realms, the Bastard Tier, the Free Cities. All who defied Kairos lay broken by battle, or bowed in surrender. The 2 armies of the Overlord, the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus, now control our lands. But our will is not yet extinguished. Not entirely. In the Valley of Vendrian's Well, those of us unwilling to bow to Kairos have banded together in defiance. Violating an oath of surrender from 2 years prior, we have staged a bloody uprising, murdering the Disfavored and Scarlet Chorus garrison in a midnight assault.
I mean, I feel like you didn't need to wait for a couple of years and kind of get all defeated and surrendered before you did that, but, you know, that's just me.
With their main forces spread across the tiers, the Disfavored and Scarlet Chorus redeploy to Vendrian's Well to crush the resistance. But months pass with no definitive battle. As disagreement and discord paralyze the Archons, we bide our time and wait for our message of insurrection to spread across the tiers. The Overlord is not amused, and Kairos has one message for the Archons: crush the Oathbreakers or die. Kairos backs this threat with an edict, a magical commandment that can slay all in the valley should the order be ignored. The honor of proclaiming this edict fell to you. Sent across the mountains to Vendrian's Well, you carry the Overlord's edict to read before the Archons. As you finally make your way through the winding mountain passes into the valley, the ground trembles, and Kairos' magic seals the way behind you.
But isn't this edict gonna kill everybody in the valley and now I'm stuck in the valley? Like, fuck you, Kairos. That's not cool. You ever heard of not shooting the messenger?
You are trapped in Vendrian's Well, with Kairos' armies and the Oathbreakers. The only way to survive is to fulfill the terms of the Overlord's edict, in any way that you can.
All right. Okay, tutorial window in the top right here. If this is your first visit to the world of Tyranny, watch for these windows to help you become familiar with the game. Okay, cool. Well, I'm this guy. And so this is an Obsidian game. And it's... I know it's a Unity game. I'd be surprised if this wasn't the same engine as Pillars of Eternity. I don't actually know, but... In Exile and Obsidian both built, I think they collaborated to build, this isometric Unity engine that Wasteland, Pillars of Eternity, I believe they're all kind of working off the same framework. Left click to act. That's interesting. Aurora says, Kairos the Overlord be praised. When I heard the avalanche, I feared the valley was sealed with you on the other side. The disfavored warrior claps a gauntlet to her breastplate, the traditional salute of her legion. The commander wouldn't say why the governor of Lethian's crossing would be coming, but since we have no forgers here, I imagine you're here to knock some sense into the voices of Narat. She catches herself clearing her throat with a smile. I mean, meditate with the Archons, so that we might agree on a plan to wipe out these Oathbreakers. But on a personal note, it is good to see another Harbinger. So, Harbinger is a reference to the conquest decision. Barely 10,000 disfavored departed the Northern Empire to conquer the Tiers, and the disfavored in country today were part of that original muster. While Scarlet Chorus faces come and go, you've seen a lot of the same disfavored over the years. This is Aurora, Stone Shield of the second cohort, veteran of the original Vendrian's Well campaign 2 years prior. You saw battle with her and her team in the infiltration of the Tiers that occurred weeks before the major opening battle at the Gates of Judgment. Those who took part in each of these daring pre-war raids refer to each other affectionately as Harbingers. So this is a reference, these are the nice little touch points where a prior decision is now being referenced kind of backwards, and there's a few different ways that you can do that. We talked in I forget what game. I think it was Epic Tavern, about kind of writing that is structured as noun verb and kind of does real time on the fly substitute. So what it could be here is that, but on a personal note, it is good to see reference to prior decision. Or it could be that this entire piece is being dropped in as a result of the decisions that we've made previously. Tutorial tip in the top right here about conversations. Conversations involve you, another character, and sometimes additional parties like bystanders or companions who may interject. The choices you make will change how the story develops and will build a reputation for your character over time. People in the world will learn of your reputations, good and bad, and respond accordingly. Your character's attributes, skills, history, and gender, as well as decisions you made in the conquest, may all open up options for you in dialogue. These options are not necessarily superior to the other responses, but give you a wider variety of choices to select from. The manner in which someone responds to your choices depends on their individual personality and attitude. Each character who speaks to you will display a banner beneath their portrait. These banners indicate which faction the character is allied with. The tooltip on these banners will provide details about how that faction feels about you. So I'm coming in to this campaign with disfavored, favor 0, but 83% of the way to tier 1. So I sided with these guys a few times, so you're starting to, the readability of the simulation here is actually starting to get exposed. You will often see the names of important characters and locations displayed in a gold text color. The tooltips on these glossary entries provide you with important information about the world. Cool, that's fine. By Kairos' will, most of our old invasion force still lives, but most of us have been scattered across the tiers, reassigned as needs change. I miss those days when there was so much battle ahead of us, so much glory still to be won. But I know the Archon's expecting you. Don't let me wax nostalgically about the old days. Lore 20, can you hear that hum in the air? That glow around the rocks? The avalanche is Kairos' magic. The Overlord has sealed the valley. Your senses see more than mine, good fate binder. I do not pretend to know much about such things, but if it was Kairos' magic and you're here on important business, well, you don't have to be the Archon of Secrets to guess that you're here to proclaim an edict. What does Kairos have in store for the enemy? 10 years, 10 years of festering plague, an edict of twisted bone. This is what I'm talking about. This chick gets it. Just fucking go straight to the source, do the thing, proclaim an edict, move on. But instead we have our soldiers will complete their task or die. I'm in a hurry to do... the edict is leveled against us. Her eyes widen with fear, her posture slackens. But the Scarlet Chorus prevents us from taking action. Why would the Overlord punish both of... She clears her throat with a sigh. Forgive me, it's not my place to question. We should have conquered the enemy within weeks of arriving in the valley. The delay reflects poorly on all of us. Your first instinct is to blame the Scarlet Chorus. Now, I'm pretty sure she's right. So we're not going to do that one. If we all follow Kairos' will and stop the insurrection, no harm will come to any of us. Let's do that one. If following orders and killing the locals will save our lives, you don't have to tell me twice, and I sure hope you don't have to tell the Archons twice either. She looks at you with a nervous smile. Still, this is all coming from the fire starter, the fake binder that made fire bubble up from the soil and reduce the Vellum Citadel to ash. So you'll forgive me if I'm still terrified all the same. That is the right response. Congratulations. Well, you've travelled a long way. I won't keep you further. I'm sure the Archons will want to hear from you at... Her voice falls silent, her attention snapping eastwards with alarm. Did you hear that? More runners, third time this week. The Oathbreakers keep trying to send messages through the mountains to gather help from outside the valley. She points over to the collapsed path by which you arrived, but they're a bit too late for that now. Come, let's show these Oathbreakers a good fight. In honour of the Vendrian Guard reneging on the surrender of 429, soldiers in both the disfavoured and Scarlet... Soldiers in both the disfavoured and Scarlet Chorus now refer to these Tearsmen as Oathbreakers. It is perhaps one of the few... I moved my mouse again. It is perhaps one of the few points of agreement between the disfavoured and Scarlet Chorus. Alright, let's get into it then. So... Ooh, is that combat? That is a combat. So I guess...
I got it.
Alright, here's a combat tutorial. So you actually have to initiate combat to get the tutorial. Tyranny uses a pausable real-time combat system. Because you will often manage more than one character at a time, it's a good idea to pause the game, issue orders, and resume real-time to see the orders play out. The options menu also contains many choices for automatic pausing when certain conditions are met, e.g. the start of combat. Press spacebar to pause and unpause the game. Your characters always perform basic attacks using their equipped weapon, or their fists if fighting unarmed. Characters also have special abilities and spells they can use in combat. When a character is selected, their ability bar displays their hotkeyed ability. As new abilities and spells are gained, they are automatically added to the ability bar. All of your character's abilities and spells can be accessed by selecting the character category icon at the bottom of the selected frame. Jesus Christ, okay. Spells. Okay. Alright. Category icons for weapon sets and quick items follow. To use an ability, left click on the ability icon and press the hotkey corresponding. Your cursor will change to indicate whether your mouse is over a valid target. If the cursor has a pair of feet in the corner, you will need to move close to the... Okay, so this all makes a ton of sense. All the characters in the game have 5 primary defenses against attack. Parry, dodge, endurance, will, and magic. These defenses are based on character attributes. So, I mean, this is a bit of a miss, right? Because effectively we've gone from a very subtle, very kind of like non-readable system to like beating you over the head and explaining what's going on in a very discreet kind of way, rather than like giving you a sequence of like tutorials that allow you to discover it through like, you know, the whole lead up to this has been so focused on like not breaking the fourth wall, and now this is just like, fourth wall, what the fuck's that? Let's just jackhammer the thing and give you tutorials about like pressing the spacebar. That doesn't feel great. There are 4 possible results from any attack: hit, critical hit, graze, and miss. A critical hit increases your damage while a graze reduces it. Even a miss will grant some experience. Okay, cool. Let's do the thing then. So we've got Concealing Shadows, we've got Thrust, we've got Charged Fist, we've got Frozen Grasp. Let's do a Frozen Grasp on this bro. awful long spell wind up on that one. Let's maybe do a shocky type thing. So it's probably hard to see on the screen, but you get a little channel icon above the above your character that's kind of telegraphing how long. Hang on, talent points. Did I level up, or are you just fucking with me? There are 6 categories of talent available to your character: leadership, defense, power, agility, ranged, and magic. With each level, you gain 1 point to purchase a talent through any of these categories. Within a talent tree, each tier of talents unlocked based on how many talent points have been spent within that tree. Each companion has their own talent tree with unique abilities. These abilities unlock in the same way as your character's talents. As you spend points within a companion talent tree, further tiers of your talents become available. Alright, there's a lot of... It sounds like there's combat going on. Alright. Squeeze through the gap. So, in the bottom left here, or right, no, that's the wrong button. There we go. So over here, we've got just a combat log, and it actually, if you mouse over it, you get to see all about the text quest and all this stuff. Which I guess is good. I mean, this feels so granular and like 17 accuracy, 2 HW, 18 plus bonus, -1 vert. Like, I don't fucking know what any of that means. So I'm gonna jump over to the other side of the screen again. Fear Wars is asking, is this game good for someone who wants to get in a lot of reading-based RPG game? I think this game is... Like, I've been playing for an hour now, and I've done a lot of reading. So, like, a lot of reading. I think it probably is really good. It's feeling very much like a spiritual successor to... In fact, I'm pretty sure it is exactly supposed to be, given that it's from Obsidian. Spiritual successor to... I think they were called the Infinity Engine games. So Baldur's Gate, and all those kinds of games. So that's kind of... the genesis of this guy, and you can kind of see it just in kind of the way that the UI is laid out and how that they're approaching like being very narrative focused, and even just the camera angle. Like, this camera angle is very reminiscent of that old engine. I believe it was called the Infinity Engine. I might actually be misremembering that. Okay, so we want to attack this person. And hopefully that companion comes round. I guess we need to get some
On it.
some magics on the go here. I would really like to not be getting attacked. That's what I would like. Alright, that's one down. Let's throw a frost on this one.
For the glory of Kairos!
We got... No, I haven't. Alright, well, I guess I'm just doing
I got
one of
it.
these. So there's a whole bunch of, like, tool tips here that are popping up. So you scored a crit. A crit is a better result than a hit, and they're more likely to occur when the character's accuracy is higher than the target's defense. So that's fairly standard kind of RPG, D&D kind of thing. Skill increased. One of your skills has gone up a rank. As you use your skills in the game, they accumulate experience. When you gain enough experience, they will increase their skill rank. Okay. So that's interesting. I said earlier that I was really into the Elder Scrolls, if you use it, then it levels up kind of approach, and there seems to be that built in here. Movement controls. To move, this seems like not the right time to be telling me about movement. Alright, movement. Character inventory, attributes and talents. Press escape to... Okay, cool. Welcome to Tyranny. This is your... Oh, okay, that's the one that we read already. Characters. Okay. Next one. Law and reactivity tooltips. And many... Okay, so that's telling me that green is based on previous experiences, which we already know and we've already talked about. Interactive objects. Hold down the tab key to highlight interactive objects in the environment. That's useful. Engagement. One of your characters has been engaged in melee. When characters are engaged, they immediately stop moving. If they move away from the enemy, engaging them will provoke a powerful disengagement attack. Your characters will automatically engage enemies when they initiate attacks against them. When the selected character is engaged, your cursor will change to a red circle with 4 wedges. This indicates that a moving character will provoke a disengagement attack from the enemy engaging them. God, this is a lot of information just suddenly getting downloaded at you all at once. This is... I would not say that this is how you should be handling like tutorialing and onboarding. But if you want to know more about tutorializing and onboarding, you should check out Ashley Brown's stream. That's Ashley_EAE. That's actually her specialty, and she does a lot of streaming around kind of exploring the tutorial and the onboarding. So shout out to Ashley. She's actually the person, or one of the people, who got me involved more in streaming. What I found was that I was kind of watching her go through things and making comments in her chat about the AI systems, and that's how I got the idea to actually just, rather than hanging out in her chat talking about it, actually come and do it myself. Alright, so let's see if we can kill somebody here. It feels like it would be preferable. Like, so much of this is just overwhelming. Alright, I think... Alright. Does that end combat? Yes, it does. So, let's get a bit of looty loot. What we got? We got a broken helmet. That doesn't sound useful. We got broken falx. Sun Soldier's Javelin and Honor Guard's Bronze Falx. Let's take everything. And let's talk to this dude. Don't bother with me. Go down to the pass. Drastus. No idea. Drastus might be a guy's name? The soldier clutches his gut and winces. You can see a hint of entrails between his fingers. I've seen... Yeah, he doubles over in pain. Graven Ash protects. You go on and help the others. Okay, cool. Well, fine. See you, bro. Field Wars says, do you think you're going to be spending a lot of time in this game? I don't know. Like... so one of the reasons that I decided to play it on a Sunday is that the Sunday kind of streams are designed to be more kind of ask me anything about game AI kind of things. So I like to pick things that I can kind of spend maybe a couple of weeks playing. But because I'm playing it exclusively on stream, that means I can only kind of play it like 2 hours at a time, which is probably not going to be great for this, because I think that this is one of those games where you need to really put like 80 plus hours into it in order to be making enough progress. Let me hold up my ghost can again. So we'll see what happens. Like, it could turn out that trying to play this is actually not conducive to a good AI experience. With that said, I think it opens up some really interesting...
Try and catch me, worm.
Some interesting kind of ideas about what game AI is, because this is presenting a very different approach to kind of its simulation backing, in that like it's obfuscating almost everything. So this is verse. Try and catch me, worm. A young Scarlet Fury, green text. Scarlet Fury is the elite fighters of the Scarlet Chorus. Weaves around the Vendrian Guard attackers, avoiding their weapons with fluid grace. She nods to acknowledge you. A breathless enemy soldier passes a glance to her countryman. This one's crazy, too much lead in her water. We should cut our losses and turn back.
Ha! Fate Finder. Here at last. Here to join me in putting these cowards out of their misery?
Sure. The Sun Soldier says, for the realm of Apex, charge, and doesn't get an audio line for that, so I assume that's not super important. The fact that Verse is getting audio lines and Aurora earlier didn't probably suggest that this is like the first companion that we're going to get. Alright. Let's drop some magic on this one.
Fall before me!
Ooh, hang on. Oh yeah, well, so actually that's immediately what happened. We've actually got Verse as a character here.
Let's do it! You.
So that ability there is a coordination ability, which is interesting. So it takes two people to coordinate with Verse to knock your target prone, and then follow up with a strong bleeding attack. That's interesting, because like that ability is not specific to Verse. It is specific to the combination of characters, and that starts to open up some interesting possibilities. And that actually appears in both characters' hotbar, which is cool. Wind-up time on some of these abilities is intense.
I can tell you didn't spend the conquest in a diplomat's tent. I'm Verse, by the way. But there are more important things to take care of than introductions. Those Vendrian Guard we killed didn't come alone.
Okay, so we've got 5 options. Let's, rather than just joining the battle, let's do a bit of exploration of the expedition.
The Vendrian Guard are testing our strength in battle, learning how we perform before they organize a real offensive. That, or they're really, really desperate to get beyond the mountains and couldn't wait until nightfall.
So, I don't know how big the download on this was, so I don't know. It's interesting that we're getting, I've been reading out a lot of text, like fucking a lot of text on this stream today. But now we've found somebody who actually has fully recorded audio lines, which is a very different feeling.
The voices of Nerat told me to intercept you at Edgering Ruins before you busied yourself solving all of the camp's problems. Guess I was too late.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about what you mean by the word intercept there, I suspect.
You're due for a meeting with the Archons, but we should handle the small matter of this ambush first. A Scarlet Fury, one of the elite killers of our ignoble gang. You'll see more than a few of us around camp, but don't let that fool you. We're a rare breed. Most of the soldiers in the Scarlet Chorus are little more than farmers and children armed with rusted forks. Makes them easier to control.
Oh, cool. Child soldiers, that's fucking ideal. Love it. That's exactly the kind of people that I want to be hanging with.
The voices of Nerat called his best fighters to this siege. There must be something important about Vendrian's well, though don't ask me what. The Archon isn't in the habit of spilling secrets.
Cool. Well, I guess
Eager.
we will join the battle.
I like that. Before we go, you might search among the remains of our fallen comrades. Wherever they're bound, I doubt they'll miss their boots, much less any rings or any useful iron they might be clutching. No reason to pity the fallen. Before long, we might wish we'd joined them here. But at least we'll enjoy heavy pockets and warm toes. For the voices of Nerat!
Alright. Let's go pillage some people. We've got some hide, a healing potion, and a shield. And I think I got an ability point, maybe. So let's... Spell creation. Fucking... That's pretty sick. Spells are created using 2 or more sigils. The core sigil determines the type of magic, such as fire, frost, or illusion. The expression sigil determines how that core shapes itself into the world, such as a ball of fire or frost enchanting a weapon. There are several categories of sigils that can accent a spell, granting it greater range, accuracy, or providing both. This is fucking cool. To begin creating a spell, select the core sigil for the type of magic, followed by the expression sigil to determine what form the spell takes. For example, if you wanted to create a fireball spell, you would select the sigil of flame as the core, followed by the sigil of directed force to determine its shape. That... Oh, I want to know what system's back in this, because, like, this is real interesting. Okay, I understand why that channel takes so long now, I think. So conceptually, this means that the magic system is a very kind of dynamic framework, and it means that compositionally you can put together different effects. So it means that there is an underlying kind of framework of semantic representation of what things achieve what ends. So it's effectively like a component system, but for magic. That's really cool. Now, one thing that's going to be interesting is like to try to get a sense of how that gets represented visually, because like the readability on the visual is also important. That's something that we've not really talked about previously. Maybe a little bit with Red Shirt, but this is really cool. So like we've got a lightning core, and a frost core. Currently we've got just an intent. Expressions used to... So we've got Frozen Grasp. That's the one that we had already. We know Frozen Grasp, but what if we accent it? If we accent it, then we get nothing. But what if we do a lightning core and that expression sigil? Well, that's Charged Fist. That's the one that we've seen already. So we've got both of those already. But it means that there's a combinatorics to this thing that's going to be really cool to play with. Journal. Character sheet. Currently level 1, so I don't think I've actually got anything to assign here. And this doesn't look like I've got any skills available, despite it having come up and said, hey, you've got things. Reputation. A blanked off tab, so that's going to be something later. And inventory. Don't know. I've got Karis's Edict. But I guess I can't, like, just read it here, unfortunately. That seems like something you should be able to do. Sigils require... Okay, this is still in spell creation. Sigils require lore to cast, to learn and control. And then you assign them. And then you can customize them. And you can give... they get a default name, but you can rename them. and okay, cool. All right. So yeah, so this is Verse. She looks like a badass. Would not really want to fuck with her. So I'm commanding an individual here, but I can... How do I command everybody? I guess I can group select. Oh, that didn't loot that body. Mistake. Take all that shit. Let's pop open the inventory. I have... What have we got in terms of armor? Well, let's look at everything. I get some accuracy from equipping this, but she's not got anything at all, so let's just equip that. No, that's not an equip button. Alright, equipped. I've got a staff. What's that? A broken helmet. That's no use. No use. That doesn't look like a good improvement. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go do it then.
Right.
So being able to bring up the selection of what's interactable is actually quite useful. So I can see over here there's something to loot. Alright, well, I guess we started a new encounter. Falx is an enduring symbol of military life and tears, adapted from the agrarian scythes of Azure. This curved blade was, in ages past, the weapon of peasants forced into battle. In the last century, the nobles of Apex took a liking to the weapon. It has since become the weapon all serious Vendrian Guard warriors endeavour to master. Cool beans. Stand aside, or your funeral will be over the side of the bluff. Alright, well, cool. Alright, reinforcements. So this is Mocking Blaze, who is a blood chanter. Signing sigils of magic and wordlessly moving her mouth, the blood chanter scribes a series of spells into the air. A red glow surrounds the Vendrian Guard warriors as the chanter's magic worms its way into their minds, blinding them with rage. Alright, well...
Come at.
The companion versus joined your party. Well, this tutorial's like a stage late. As you acquire companions, you will need to balance their strengths against the strengths of your character to be successful in combat. While it is possible to adventure alone, you will find the game more rewarding with a balanced party. There are now 2 characters in your party, and both are selected. Any commands you issue will affect both party members. To select a single member, click on their selection circle, their portrait, or press F1 to select the player character, or F2 to select verse. To select multiple party members, click and hold anywhere on the screen and drag the marquee over the circles of the party members you'd like to include. You can either control your new companion directly or enable their AI and have them attack and use their abilities automatically. Once their AI is enabled, you can always select them and tell them to attack a specific enemy or use an ability, and they will follow your orders. If you right-click on the AI button, and this is probably something that we'll end up playing with, you can see the AI settings for your party members. You can set the auto-attack behavior of each character, which determines how they attack enemies. For companions, you can also choose AI packages that determine how they will use their abilities in combat. That's cool. Let's take a look at that shit. So we've got AI behavior enabled for defend party, so the character will attack anyone who attacks a member of their party but will not seek out targets unless provoked. And we can actually activate different settings, so she can be a blade dancer, will fight aggressively in melee, Targeting enemies with low health and low defenses. She will attempt to remain mobile in the battlefield and alternate between Red Geyser and seeking sheath stances at high health, and 3 whispers at low health levels. That sounds great. I read that and I was like, that's exactly the right strategy. I did not read that and go, what the fuck is any of that mean? So Blade Dancer or Archer. Let's just go to default. In fact, let's just cancel out of that. So my dude is gonna cast this. So that guy's now frosted, and now let's fuck him up.
Sorry, I can't. Take that.
Let's do a charge strike on this one.
On it.
Ooh, she's not looking so good. That's a poison spell. Let's drop a healing potion because she's not looking so hot. Oh, Verse has a stance ability, which is probably what that AI thing was referring to. We're not doing good here. Alright, that guy's nearly down.
They won't even get close.
She's on cooldown for a potion, but she's not looking good at all. Alright, that's one of them down. Let's get focused on this guy and get him down next. She's probably up for a... yeah, she's up for a potion.
Did I?
Let's get...
I always have
Frost
this much
strike on
blood.
this guy. And now back to this guy.
Right.
Ooh. That wasn't what I wanted to do. Alright, and now... let's be fucking... Alright. That was tougher than I think it needed to be. Alright, well they didn't drop anything, but there's stuff to loot over here. Alright, take all that shit. Like, the fact that that this kind of onboarding encounter is throwing me so much shit that I had to use healing potions without it actually saying, hey, this is what a healing potion is, feels a bit aggressive. Oops, wrong button. Let's go. I guess if you stop taking damage, then there's a heal because she's back at full strength. Ooh, hello. Who are you? No. Okay, so stow your weapons or we find out how long a man screams before the hitting the ravine down below. That's, Skewer him, worry not for me, grave and ash will protect. The disfavored officer winces, blood seeping from the seams of his braces and cuirass. You heard the man. He plainly invited you to use that little blade of yours. What are you waiting for? Permission from your pimp. This blade. If you're so eager to see your allies dead, just step closer. So he said, I gave him an offer of like, hey, give up and we'll put you in a cell. And he was like, oh, well, then the Scarlet Chorus will come and their thirst for torture. And this one replies, now that's unfair. I assure you, it's more of a hunger for torture than a thirst. That's cute writing. But you are correct, we have no charity left for those who have laughed at our mercy once before. If you fools won't deal with him, maybe I will. Alright, well. So he killed the commander and then died. And now, fucking chick from the beginning shows up. That's cool. Now that all the fighting's done, Drastus' death will be a setback. He was a fine steward of this steadfast. But with the losses we've sustained in this war, and the next in command, I will aspire to be half the leader Drastus was. One of the soldiers found some mage blather on the Oathbreakers. I figured you being trained in letters could perhaps... Aurora looks down at the papers, her face blushing, and quickly thrusts the sheaf towards you. Literacy is rare in the Northern Empire, where the disfavored were born and trained. Time spent reading and writing is, after all, time not spent sparring and readying one's body and mind for battle. Examine the parchment. Repeating the same messages in different written scripts, the parchments explain the Vendrian Guard's desire to overthrow Kyros's Archons and rout their armies from the tiers. The pages aren't addressed to any specific reader, but rather openly invites all who remain loyal to the younger realms to gather at Vendrian's Well. Recruitment material. There were likely other groups trying to flee the valley, but we can rest knowing we stopped this group. A shame it's at such a high cost. The Archons are expecting you at the disfavored war camp. When you're ready to leave, exit by the southeastern gate and keep going that way through the foothills. And off she fucks again. I'm assuming this guy is going to be lootable, and he is. Ooh, he's got... is that cheese? Got some cheese. A scroll for the sigil of distant impact. Ooh. Let's take all that shit, and now let's open our spell creator. So, with the sigil of distant impact, if we take the frost... we haven't learnt it. Okay, okay. What happens if I take the frost and I move that onto me? Can I use it? No. Look. Okay. Oh, I had one already. Well. Do I get a second? Alright. Okay, let's swap now to spells. So if I craft the lightning spell with the distant impact, that gives me electric jolt. And I can also select a range sigil. So it's 8 meters without it and 10 meters with it. Assign. Boom. All right. Got a lightning strike at 10 meters. And let's take... Let's also just... Rime spike. Form a massive frozen spike of ice from the ground under a target's feet, impaling and freezing them. Cool, cool. Alright. So that's 2 new spells. So that's fun to dick around with. There's a locked chest over here, but it needs higher subterfuge than we seem to have. Start a conversation with that guy, but it's not really a conversation. Alright, so that is going out to the map. Maybe I need the whole party together. Now, can I go out to the map? There we go. Alright. Head for the camp. It will take 2 hours. Hail Fatebinder camps on up ahead. Don't mind us, just clearing out the rabble. I still don't understand what I've done to offend. I respect that these are now disfavored lands, and I'm happy to give the Legion a proper toll. But she's going on about trading rights. What nonsense is that? I'm not allowed to trade one thing for another. It's not like I'm selling weapons to angry peasants or anything of the sort. You're on disfavored land. These warriors have every right to kill you. Or the Overlord regulates all trade. If you lack the proper permits, your goods are forfeit, or this is none of my concern. Carry on. Alright, let's... Not us and not our problem. Maybe march your butt to Bastard City and plead your case before Tunon. But we'll lighten your burden and relieve you of your wares first. That should make the long trek a bit more bearable. Anything to be argued before Tunon may be argued before me. That works. What's there to discuss? We should kill this mongrel. And the warrior pauses, placing her hand in front of her mouth. If the Fatebinder wishes to weigh in on the matter, courtesy demands we listen. This is a disfavored matter, but I know the agents of the court do so love to throw their judgments around. Well, you could rob me now and have my supplies today, or you can leave me alive and have fermented honey all year long. I even know a few family recipes for painkillers and healing drafts. Certainly any army will need those. So I have a lawbreaker and hunter conversation arcs here that I'm not meeting the prerequisites for. These are essential goods to the war effort. We should leave the supplier intact. A lie that a supply caravan of reagents going missing, or a law 30. What a coincidence! Your family recipe for wound paste smells just like the Scarlet Fury's own concoction. Where'd you steal this? If the disfavored have reason to question these items, I should trust their judgment. All right, if I've got a law 30 option here, that feels like the right. Wait. I don't think we need to kill him, but... Okay, here we go. I found most everything out in the forest of the valley. I keep my head low when I heard sounds of combat, then I take a look and grab whatever wasn't claimed by the first victors. So you stole from the disfavored dead. How else did you get your hands on their iron? You would come here and sell us our own armaments. If anything has an owner, I will return it, but this iron would have turned to rust if the disfavored are few in number. You need a man. You need a man like me to gather up supplies that would otherwise go to waste. So, then you may trade your wares freely, but lie again and I'll have you killed. The disfavored will tolerate your presence, but you'll pay them handsomely for such charity. Leave this card as a gift for Graven Ash, then leave and never come back, and you stole from the Archons and then wish to sell it back, your life ends here. Like, you know, there's definitely a complex morality to this, right? Because, like, you're basically talking to somebody who's robbing battlefields. But at the same time, like, he does make a good point that, like, somebody needs to be rounding this stuff up. I think this is the one. All right. Well, we got some stuff for that, and I bet we get a trader out of it. So Verse wants to know, the voices of Narat told me that you've come as a mediator. Considering the source, well, I can't help but feel I'm only hearing half the story. So let's have it out. What's so special about you? So I can lie. I can just come clean. I can not say anything. Or I can ask some questions, like, why so suspicious? It's just a feeling I got. When the Archons are together, the air gets as taut as a bowstring. I can't help but think that no amount of compromise will get them seeing eye to eye. So why invite a mediator from Tunon's court? It doesn't add up. Let's see. Why do you think the Archons are at odds? I've been with the Scarlet Chorus since the early days of the Conquest, so I can say it's been building for a few years now. There's an energy about those two, like a pair of storms moving to collide. I've heard tell that Graven Ash and the voices of Narat share some bad blood in the Northern Empire, but I don't know any of the particulars. That's absurd. If the Archons cannot put the past behind them, they're unfit to command. By my authority, the Archons will fall in line. With all the power they wield, those two are not quick to forgive. So I can be completely level with it, or I mean, the fact that she's been given to me as a companion says that, like, building loyalty and trust is probably the right way to play it. So... let's go on to the... So... let's go do the thing. Okay. So you're the fire starter. Reference back to the Siege of the Citadel thing. So the Archons are expecting me, and they're in the tent at the center of the camp. There we go. Alright, let's do it.
Hey,
Alright. I'm assuming that the glow ether people are the Archons. That's Graven Ash. And that's the Voices of Nerat. This one is Iron Marshal Erenyos and Fifth Eye. Alright, let's go talk. What up, bros?
That's 4 reports of avalanches in the mountains now. The Tearsmen can barely count past 9. They have neither the capacity nor the cause to close off the mountain passes. Either way, that leaves the 2nd and 4th cohort trapped outside the valley.
Or it's the work of your perfidious Earthshakers. Only a fool would not suspect a traitorous Archon of poisoning the mind of his students with sedition. We would have killed the Earthshakers Guild for their master's treachery, but I'm sure you have some perfectly valid reason for allowing them to live as your pawns.
The Archon of Secrets passes a scepter between his hands as he speaks, twirling the rod in hypnotic circles. Emerald luminescence seeps from the seams of the Archon's ragged red robes. The glow is most noticeable where his neck ought to be. His mask seems to float and spin, never pivoting or bending naturally.
hey, watch yourself. When these two get going, you don't want to get between them.
Iron Marshal Erenyos, Governor Luke D. Long have we been honoured by your iron, now we are honoured by your presence. I must apologise for my lords, tempers run high of late.
Ah, the fire starter has arrived. Welcome, welcome. Our agents tell us such lovely stories of what you did at the Vellum Citadel. Have you come bearing another fragment of Kairos' wrath in tow? We were worried you'd never make it. So glad that Drostus' demise didn't cause further delay.
For the 2nd time, Brother Tunon selects you for the glory of proclamation. You should be honored. Tell us, what has the Overlord decided to unleash upon the Oathbreakers?
How do I want to frame this? I think... so there's a very kind of... the Overlord's loyal servants must hold Ascension Hall by Kairos' Day of Swords, or all in the valley shall perish. Or number 2 is, it seems you need some encouragement to work together. Kairos' edict will end the lives of everyone in this valley, unless Ascension Hall is claimed by Kairos' Day of Swords. Or number 3, which seems like it's more confrontational, in honour of your incompetence and disarray, the edict will execute every living thing in this valley unless Ascension Hall is taken by Kairos' Day of Swords. Let's go middle of the road, I think. The earth sways with each word you utter, the air thickening with warmth as you pronounce the tersely phrased commandment, its every syllable drafted by the hand of Kairos. With the edict proclaimed, your pulse quickens and the muscles in your legs, worn from the long trip down the mountains, feel renewed, the tired limbs now nearly buoyant with vigor. Boom. Edicted.
The Overlord means to compel us into action. No doubt the avalanches in the mountains are part of this ultimatum. We must conquer the Oathbreakers or die in failure. There is no room for error, and no other way out of this valley alive. We'll need to advance across the Mittani. We lose everything if we stand still, and we move to backup Plan Green. The Earthshakers didn't make it over the mountain in time, so we do this the hard way. Over the walls instead of through.
So you found your backbone at last! Oh, we were worried past humiliations would make you soft, timid. That was a record for you, right? The baker's dozen lost in one sortie. If you had waited for the chorus reinforcements, maybe we'd have eyes and ears on the matter.
So, this green text is actually providing, like, telepathic messages from the voices of Narat. So you hear the voices in your head, watch him squirm, so many tears over replaceable, expendable, useless soldiers. I miss the old Archon of War. You'd never see blood echo in a blubbering mess over a few dead killers. He'd use the knuckle bones of his best disciples for jewelry, and even made a breastplate out of his dead brother's ribcage, because that's how a real man deals with grief. Cool.
Daft? Only fools hate their lives enough to insult our intellect. But, our dear Binder, your invective is not without purpose. Each moment we waste, death by edict draws closer. Graven Ash, we leave you to tackle the river. The chorus will scour the outer valley.
So that is what it takes to get you to agree to a plan of action. The threat of death? You place the Overlord in this position with your incessant arguments, but now we've actually agreed to do something. Kairos be praised.
Alright, well, we've got them aligned, so no need to belabor the point. Alright, everybody seems...
Our soldiers clamor for battle, and at last we shall have it. Verse, we command you to continue guarding the Fatebinder. Tunon's chosen is our honored guest, and must be shown our finest hospitality.
Well, that feels a bit ominous.
I won't let you down, boss. He'll get through the campaign in one piece, as long as he doesn't do anything too stupid.
And, Fatebinder, one last thing. We still haven't forgotten how you handed over our agents to the disfavored just before the burning library sparked into being. We would be a fool to believe that Tunon sent us an impartial Fatebinder, but... prove us wrong. Prove us wrong.
The Archon twirls his scepter one last time. You hear the voices in your head. Suit yourself, Fatebinder, the more you ignore us. Weird. Don't know what's going on with that.
Finally. The fool and his puppet are gone. Perhaps now I can hear myself think. Rarely do I question Kairos' judgment. But I will never understand why the voices of Narat is given such authority. I shudder to think what will become of us all should Tunon favor him in the end. Though the edict threatens the Scarlet Chorus just as it threatens us, you've shown your worth in war. And your name has been known to the Legion since the very beginning of this long conquest. So I'd ask that you join us this one last time, to help us wrap up this last objective. If you wish to be counted amongst the glorious, speak with the Iron Marshal. She will direct the order of battle until we are ready for the final push into the Citadel.
Okay, so the Iron Marshal says, I'm short a few scouts, short a few soldiers, short a few everything. I'm sure my brethren will be grateful for the assistance of a skilled outsider. I would be honoured to help, and what of the Scarlet Chorus, how will they be helping, or glare silently?
I ask myself that question often. While we take the river crossing, the Scarlet Chorus should be using their sizable presence to remove the Oathbreaker patrols lurking in the Outer Valley.
So I got effectively this is just quest establishment, but I'm going to talk to this Iron Marshal to get some quests, and then she's saying it. And though I am loath to mention it, the chorus can likely use your assistance. They certainly won't secure the Outer Valley on their own. Fifth Eye will be somewhere in that rat's nest they call a camp due east. Seek him out if you must. So it's kind of setting up that there's two factions. You can work for both. You can take some quests. Let's go steal some shit. I wonder if I can just pick this lot right in front of her. And the answer is yes. Alright, we'll take that shit. What else you got? Alright, that bro does not want to talk. So let's head back outside. And with that, it feels like a decent stopping point for the day. It's been about 2 hours. So, I think there's some really interesting stuff happening here, right? Because, this is presenting a very different modality. Oh shit, now we've got a timer. 8 days to Kairos' Day of Swords. So they've been talking about the Day of Swords, but not actually given any context. So it's 8 days away. So this is not a sit back and chill kind of moment. So what's really cool here, if I do one of these and do one of these, is you're getting two very different views on philosophies around how to render systems effectively. You've got when we played Oxygen Not Included, when we looked at RimWorld, when we did all that stuff, we kind of had a system that was very categorically systems oriented, right? And the simulation was exposing those systems so that you could understand them, grok them, and then take action around them. That's not what's going on here. What's going on here is that they're kind of really obfuscating the approach and kind of providing a more suspension of disbelief kind of system, where because you aren't seeing the nuts and bolts of how it's all put together, you're kind of being left in a world where you've got to kind of squint to understanding it. And that works a lot better for the narrative approach, because if every one of those narrative dialogue choices was being presented as, well, this is going to do this and this is, the mechanical outcomes, then you'd be in a different world where you're letting the mechanics and the math of the simulation drive the narrative choices. And I think that in kind of making that choice to obfuscate all of that, they're actually doing some really canny things. In that initial lead up, it felt very heavy-handed. It felt very much like I was being forced to make a whole bunch of decisions that I didn't really understand the impact of. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how those decisions that we made, already the idea that I burnt down that citadel has come up repeatedly as a reference point. I wonder to what extent that is avoidable. And in fact, what might be interesting is to start a second playthrough next week and go back over this stuff. What's as I'm thinking about it just now, one of the things to call out is that there are only a couple of touch points in the audio, right? So the audio has used, it's referred to the Citadel, it's referred to me as the Firestarter, I think. Those are touch points to my narrative because I made my choices through that branching system. What if most of your past led to you being called the Firestarter, but actually being called it for different reasons? That might be a possibility, and that would be a way to kind of give a huge sense of callback agency without actually having anything, or not without having anything to back it, but kind of using some tricks to make it work. So that might be a interesting thing to explore next week. But for right now, I'm going to leave it there. Gaming AI Show will be back on Wednesday. We're back to normal schedule for the next couple of weeks. GDC's coming up, so I'm probably gonna take GDC week off, and then I'm on vacation the week after. But you can find information about us, about what's going on with the stream. It's I always get it wrong. Game AI Show on Twitter and Facebook, so it's facebook.com/GameAIShow and @GameAIShow on Twitter. And of course, you can just hit follow if you're watching this on Twitch right now. But if you're not watching this on Twitch, because I have started exporting these videos out to YouTube, go ahead and hit up twitch.tv/GameAIShow. I'd love it if you could follow the stream. But also, like, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe and throw a couple of bucks our way if you can afford to. And if you can't afford to, then just watch. Just watch, hang out in the chat, talk. And feel free to send any feedback, comments, and everything else either through social media or on Twitch. There is a suggestions box extension set up there where you can send anything through. Like I say, we'll be back on Wednesday. I think we're going to be playing Cultist Simulator on Wednesday. Strong chance that we'll be playing Tyranny again on Sunday. So Wednesday's going to be 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. That's 9:30 Eastern. On Wednesday, it's going to be 11 a.m. Pacific time. That is 2 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. in the UK for any of our UK viewers. Looking forward to getting back and getting into the swing of things, because I've been off for all of last week. I was in Toronto for work. Turns out Toronto's fucking cold in February. So I'm trying to defrost a little bit, and I'm looking forward to hanging out on Wednesday. So thanks for stopping by, and see you later.